Everyone, we are going to be doing a end of day recap for Monday, October 14th. Starting off with GU. Remember, our session, or at least my session, begins at 4 a.m. Eastern time, which would be approximately right about here is when I was at charts. So let's head down and let's first mark out the areas where we could have looked for buys. So we had an order flow shift over here after price reacting to this 15-minute POI here, which really this would be an internal order flow shift. So same thing for that one. But let's mark it out here. We would look for entries here, potentially here, and price gave a order flow shift to the downside, or if you want to call it an internal order flow shift. So that means we could have looked for sells right around here. And well, really past this point, that's out of our session. So we would be done then. So let's go down on the higher time frame. Let's go up on the higher time frame and just go through the daily swings. So daily swing is bullish, daily internal is bullish, 4-hour leg is bearish. We are right now still in between this 15-minute range right here. Price is bearish, so that means that sells are pro order flow and buys are counter. So ideally, I probably wouldn't want to be looking for buys here or here. I'd like to have at least another break, which we didn't get. Sells over here would be more justified by that logic. So coming down over here, price is coming in. This is considered the last point of inducement. That being said, there is no real POI, so I wouldn't be looking over here. The only time I would make an exception is if there's clear M15 order flow. There isn't. So realistically, you're just taking an order flow shift in the MID. Even though price did react, this swept in, got you some momentum candle. This would be the engulfing one, so you would enter right here. But because price is not really giving us so much of a nice clean or clear POI, I guess you could justify this. I'm not going to take it. You could call it yourself. This would be a break even anyways. Moving on over here, let's say you were still looking at buys, which by this point, I don't look at these areas because you've had so much time that's gone by. You're talking about 7 plus 3, 10 hours for this 15-minute POI to be mitigated back into. Price came into the last point of inducement. We had EID be created right up here, but price came in. We didn't really get so much of a momentum candle. I wouldn't have entered there, and price just blew right past our last point of inducement. Next up is our sell. So price came in. There's no last point of inducement, EID, MID. There is no type of liquidity or anything built up here, so I really wouldn't be looking. Let me see, let me find my paintbrush here. So I wouldn't be looking here unless if we had EID created, which surprisingly you didn't have EID created right here. So price came in, reacted, swept, but did it sweep into anything? Not really. We have a wick right here. You could consider that your last point of inducement. You would have entered there, covered the high. But by this point, we're out of our session because we end at 11. Needless to say, this would have been a break-even trade as well. Let's erase this. Realistically, there was really nothing that caught our attention here on GU. Moving on to USD CAD. Start off with the daily. Daily swing is bullish. We are operating within this daily swing. We ended up going with another daily swing structure just because that large one is probably not going to be mitigated or we're not fully going to get out of it for a year or so. So daily swing is still bullish. Daily internal leg is bearish. Or actually, daily internal leg is also bullish, because our daily internal leg would be coming from here to here to here. What the heck? Let's go here. Actually, daily internal leg is bearish. Or no, it's bullish because price broke down here and then we had a daily ISB. Let's write that down. Daily ISB. So price is making higher highs. So clearly we are also going to be looking for buys. So areas where we would look for buys. Our session started right over here. Price came in, broke, had a sub break again. Price came in. I missed this buy. I should have taken it. Missed this buy for a similar reason why I didn't take the buy on GU. Price then came in again. Could potentially look for a buy here. Then after price broke the low, giving us an order flow shift to the ups, to the downside, you could have looked for sells. Sells would be considered pro order flow. And then our session ended right about here. So let's take a look at the possible areas where price could have given us a reaction. So price came in, last point of inducement. Biggest difference between USD CAD and GU on this is the fact that our last point of inducement is similar, but the biggest difference is that USD CAD has consistently been making higher highs, as you can see. We're constantly putting a new substructure to the high, whereas GU, if you remember correctly, we were in between this range right here. You ever heard the saying, don't diddle in the middle? Well, that's why. None of these trades worked out. And in fact, they were all confusing. Here, because order flow is so bullish, literally we only had about one order flow shift to the downside and sub break, and we just, we just had an order flow shift again to the upside. This would be a sub, that would be sub, 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 and even before then, just price is just bullish as can be. Look at all that. So to a certain degree, you are able to start taking order flow. Price comes into the last point of inducement. I get it. Last point of inducement is a bit away, but we had our reaction. We swept into it. We had our momentum candle that engulfs the bearish candle before it. We tapped into a actual clearer refinement, even though it's a little bit away from the last point of inducement, but you could have gone and had a 5.64R, which could equate to anywhere from $5, $500, and just depending on what you use your account for. There was also an order flow shift to the downside. Again, going based off of the Omega plan, this would be considered valid to a certain degree. Me personally, I wouldn't consider this valid just because there is not much liquidity, if any. There's nothing here. So to me, all this looks like it's going to get ran. And eventually, it sure did. In fact, you would have been coming out for break even here. And it's like, where would you enter? I don't even like the size of this candle. It's just too much. But you would have gone break even right here and stopped out there. I'm not marking this in my case studies simply because of the fact that I would never be looking at this trade. For starters, it's one solid push down. There is no structure, there is no liquidity, nobody's getting induced here, so nobody's really taking trades here. And then we forgot to look right here. Let's take a quick gander. Yeah, no trades. Look at that. Price just melted right through it. Now let's look at EU. Starting off at the daily, swing price is bearish. Daily leg is bearish. We've come down. We're reacting to a daily demand zone. Our 4-hour is also bearish. Because we're in this 4-hour demand zone, I'm actually looking for buys. So that being said, we were operating within this 15-minute leg. The 15-minute leg is counter order flow though, because you have to keep in mind, price is still bearish. We have not gotten out of this range right here. That being said, now that we're reacting here, if we get a bullish price action towards the upside, I would be looking for buys. But let's still take a look. Let's say you were looking at here, because technically you did get I would consider this a internal order flow shift to the upside. Not valid in my opinion, because you're going counter structure, because real 15-minute structure is bearish right over here. But nonetheless, let's take a look. So price came in, reacted over here. Last point of inducement would have been here. You would have entered on this bullish engulfing, gone break even right about here, and got stopped out. So could have gone definitely worse. You could have had a couple of losses, but instead you got break evens. I wouldn't have looked there. The only other place you could look for buys, for sells, is right here. But do you really want to be looking for sells when you are in a 4-hour demand zone? Probably not, or daily demand zone. Our session was basically from here all the way to here. So nothing there. Moving on to AU. Starting off on the daily. Daily swing is bullish. Our daily leg is bullish. Well, daily internal, right? 4-hour leg is bearish. But it looks like we're doing some ranging. Our session here started over at 4 a.m. right here. So the only places you could have looked for some reactions would have been here, and price never came back into anything else significant since then. And I'm sure, as you can tell with any little bit of experience, price blew right past it and there was nothing there. So that's it for the 14th of October. There was really only one trade to be had that fit the plan that would have worked out well for you, and that was this buy right here on USD CAD. That's the one that I put in my case studies. All the other ones I'm positive I would have avoided because of lack of liquidity or other circumstances of them being counter order flow. But that being said, this was the best trade of them all. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow for another end of day recap. Peace.